John chapter 9, starting in verse 1. And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither has this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. Now, when I gave it the title, Are You Here to Help or What? I was coming from the perspective of the blind man. Imagine this, a blind man that's sitting here. He's blind from birth, and Jesus and his disciples passed by. They noticed that the man was blind, but the thing about it, instead of immediately the disciples trying to help, they started questioning him. I got 3 T's to give you this morning, and after I give you these 3 T's, I'm going to explain to you why I have 3 T's. The first T I want to talk about today is take the time to look around. Take the time to look around. If you look around today, especially in Charlotte, there's somebody almost standing at every corner. It's people that are destitute. There's people when the leaves fall off the trees, you see all kind of encamps and tents and all kind of stuff where people are living in the woods and all kind of different things are going on. Take a time to look around. This world is all messed up, and people would soon shoot you if you knock on the door or ring the doorbell at the wrong house. As people are so afraid and they're ready to jump to violence. They're afraid and they're looking out for number one. I just got to look out for myself. But look, notice Jesus was passing through and he was taking the time to look around and he noticed this blind man. Yeah. This blind man who had been blind from birth. Our first T, as we look around, notice. The second T is this. Don't talk about things without taking action. Don't talk about things without taking action. A lot of people are full of talk. Some people can talk. You got friends like that. They'll talk and they'll plan all day. But when it comes time for action, you look around for them talkers and nobody's around. People will assume talk about something rather than do something. People will talk about other people rather than help with the situation. You might have been even wanting to help a person get in the situation that they're in. And they will sit back and talk about you. And some people will make friends with you just so they can talk about you and know your business and act like they were all close and they'd be your closest buddies that were just getting your information. But you know, the old people say a dog that will carry a bone, he'll bring a bone. See, he'll bring that bone to you, but then that same thing, your conversation is not stopping with you and that person. They're going to carry that thing on and on and on. I discovered some things at work. Somebody had came back and tried to report something that I said, and I said, there was only a couple of people in the room when I said what I said. And I'm hearing what I said back again from somewhere else, and so I started playing around with them. If I wanted to get a message to something, I would say it in front of that person. And that message would get back faster than the cell phone. I'm like, wait a minute. Now I know who the Judas is in the room. Before you could finish your sentence, it's like, how in the world is this person who's not even here knowing what I'm talking about and they not here? And I said, so I'm going to start saying all kind of crazy stuff. Just all these messages, everything they deliver and everything I say, it's like it was coming right back. And I was like, ain't none of that true. I just wanted to see who the Judas was in the room that was going to keep spraying every time I say something. And so I learned. I didn't have too much to say to that person after that. Not too. I was hi and bye. That's about all I had to say to that person. When you get people around you like that rather talk than do anything, it's a tough situation. Sometimes you don't know how to handle it, but watch this. As you take the time to look around, it doesn't take a genius to realize that we got a crisis going on with men. There's a crisis going on with men. In this text, we have a blind man. And this blind man was going through, but notice there's men that are going through here in society today. Young men as well as old men are going through so many different things, and it's like some people try to cover it up with a smile. Some people try to cover it up with their vehicle and with their house or with women and running around and posting different things. They're trying to cover it up, but men are hurting. Men are hurting and they're going through and they're not opening up. We talked about the suicide crisis on last week, but men are going through so many things and they're trying to self-medicate, whether it's getting high or getting drunk and trying to escape. They're trying to escape this society because things are just so bad. But who is going to take the time to be able to help these men? Are you here to help or what? If we are called to be Christian, Jesus is walking with his disciples, but sometimes we need correction as well. Because we need correction because sometimes we can try to look behind the scenes before we can fix what's in people's face. You're trying to find out why and who when you're asking questions, but the person needs help. Look at the disciples. The disciples asked, who did sin? They already jumped to conclusion. Now look, the man was born blind. He couldn't see him before he was born. So what kind of question was that in the first place? Who did the man sin? He was born that way. So you already jump into the conclusion that sometimes we put people in boxes without seeing their situation. And now my wife, she talked about, helping people on the corners and stuff. And I was like, well, if we help everybody on the corner, it's going to get to the point where it's going to be somebody on every corner we stop at. I said, so we're going to have to figure as the church, we're going to have to figure out something that we can do to help these people rather than having everybody on a corner. It's almost like some corners in Charlotte, as soon as somebody move off, it's like somebody clock in and they right there just waiting on that person to move. They got their sign in their pocket. And one shift move, the next shift comes right in. I tell you, on my way to work is one dark intersection. And this man be walking up to people's cars in the dark. I'm like, man, you're going to get hurt one day walking up to people's cars in the dark out here in the middle of the night. He can't help he got the third shift, but I'm like, brother, you need to find something else to do. Because you out here at night walking up on people's cars, something going to happen with you walking up on people like that in the middle of the night. But watch this. Are we here to help or what? There's things that we've got to be able to do to reach people that are going through. And I submit to you on today, it first starts with our family. It starts with our family. It starts with us having those hard talks within our family with those people that are going through. Because there's people going through in each and every one of our families. Yeah. And we have to teach them and not condemn them and not ask them how they have sinned, but look, let's help them to get over that hurdle of sin. Yeah. Now, sometimes it takes professional help, and sometimes the best thing for some people is to be locked up for a season. Because sometimes the things that are going on have you blinded to where you can't see yourself. And sometimes you have to hit the bottom before you can see that you have been the one that's been causing the problem all the while. But we must be ready to have those serious talks with the people around us. Jesus had this talk with this blind man. This blind man, he went and after the disciples had accused him or his parents of sinning and all of this, he says, watch. Some situations are neither man or his parents have sinned, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. We go through things so God can bring us out. If everything was always pleasant in our life, we wouldn't pray like we need to pray. We would definitely take God for granted. Especially a lot of us that have been born in church and we've always been in church, sometimes we take our relationship with God for granted. We take it for granted and we don't appreciate it like we should because God has always been around. Yeah. But God will allow things to happen so that he can be made manifest and his works can be manifest in us. Yeah. You're not ready until you have a testimony that God has brought you out of something. So what God does is he controls both sides. He controls the problem and the answer all at the same time. Because if you never went through the problem, you would never seek him for the answer. So it takes problems to get us to seeking the answer because the thing about it, that's why he says not many rich men are called, because if you were rich, you would depend upon your riches. You would always depend upon your money and you would be pointing to your bank account rather than pointing to God. But God will allow you to go through a few sleepless nights and a few hungry nights to show you that I am Jehovah Jireh, your provider. He will show you, he will allow you to lose a job out of the blue, and you be like, what in the world is going on? Because he wants you to know that that employment is not because of that company, it's because of me. I am the one that gives you life, health, and strength, and the ability to gain wealth. So we face problems and we go through situations so that the works of God can be manifest in us. If you're always praying, God, I don't want to go through nothing, well, you're not going to grow either. Because if you don't want to ever go through nothing and you never want to face any challenges, that will hinder your growth. He said this man is in this situation because God is going to manifest something in him. I must work the works of him that has sent me while it is day, verse 4, because night cometh when no man can work. We're not going to live forever, y'all. And things won't be like this always. And it's a blessing that things won't be like this always, but there's something that you've got to be able to look forward to. I look forward to Jesus cracking the sky and coming back in the clouds, and he's coming back for you, and he's coming back for me, for those that are already a part of the kingdom. Now look, it's not time to become a part. Say, sign me up now when you see him coming. Mm-hmm. When you see him coming, it's too late to say, I want to sign up now. No, there's going to be a whole lot of people trying to sign up then when they see that sky cracked and he's coming back. But look, he's allowing you to have the opportunity now while it is day. While it is day, we must be telling our loved ones and our friends, but look, things ain't going to be like this always. But there is an overseer that's watching over everything. God is watching over us, and he's providing them for us. He is our heavenly Father. There is something, there is a power that's above all of these other powers where we can pray. And before people had cell phones and all these other things, you just had to pray for your loved one. And you prayed for them to come back home, and you prayed till you got some peace. And then when you got some peace and you were able to go to bed, I know people can't imagine now life without a cell phone. And how you going to go out of town without a cell phone? How you going to do this? That's how people act now. But you did it in the past. Grandma and grandpa, they'd go from here to New York with nothing. And you didn't know nothing until they got there. And you was all right. But now we act like you can't go down the street or up the road. You got to be in contact. I got to know where you're at. You calling me like that. I just got to the store. Well, when you get in there yet? No, I ain't in there yet. And all of these calls and texts and all of these different things that we go through now, it's only made us weaker rather than stronger. Because our faith is stronger when we just had to pray. Grandma would sit in the house and she would sit in there and she would just pray. And she'd pray for all her grandchildren and her children, just praying for everybody. And it's like, and even God would even show her things. And she would know stuff, when women got that intuition anyway. And she would know stuff and things. And I'd bring a couple of girlfriends by, and thank God I only did two. She was the second. She was the second and she stayed. So she had grandma's approval. But she would look and she would pray and she would size up those women. And I tell you, she'd ask some questions and all kind of stuff. But grandma had that. She had the foresight because she was a prayer warrior. Yes. And she knew what she wanted for her grandson. Yes. And see, but sometimes today, these young people, they don't ask nobody. They've been dating 3 years before you even know they even had a girlfriend. Because they don't even share stuff like that no more. But no, I wanted my approval of my grandma because I knew that she could pick them. And so if she could pick, I'm taking them to my grandma's house, it's right down the street, down there by Davidson College. We're going to sit down on her green couch, and I'm going to see what she think about this girl. That's what you're going to do. But see, now it's like people, they just want to live my life, and they want to stay out my business life. But look, my business is your business because I love you. Because I love you, your business is my business. This is my room. One of my boys said this is my room, and the next thing they know, they didn't have no door for about a year and a half. The door was gone. It got rained on a few times. I couldn't even put the door. I was going to put it back up, but after it got rained on a few times, that door wasn't no more good. But I was like, you don't run nothing in here because you're our child. And so, this going to be just like the school bathroom. Ain't no door or nothing. I'm taking the whole thing off and throwing the thing out the back door. Because we got to know because we love you. We're concerned about you. And see, that sometimes, people are afraid to put their foot down and take a stand, but love is willing to take a stand. Amen. Love is willing to have that conflict. I will have that conflict because I love you and I care for you. I'm not staying out your business because I love you. I need to be in your business because I'm trying to help you. Sin doesn't change. The way you go about it might change, but the same sin is still sin. The same stuff they were doing in the 50s and 60s is the same stuff they're doing right now. You think somebody invented, the devil ain't got no new tricks. He's using the same old ones over and over and over. And although you think grandma didn't try to sneak out, but yeah, she did too. So it's the same stuff that's happening over and over and over again. And so you must realize that this older generation is here to help you and not to hurt you. So we can't just go from talking about things. We must be willing to take action. Who was willing to try to do some things to try to help men to be able to express themselves and lead their families and become better men? None of us in here had the choice of our race, our color, or our gender. But you have to deal with the lot that God has given you. And when you deal with the lot that God has given you, all you can do is go to the word where he has spoke. You go to the word and you learn, and then you come back and you help one another. We're helping. Are you here to help or what? If you want me to be better, then we both got to be better. First of all, you have to practice what you're preaching. And so while you practice what you're preaching, I can take your example and we both going to start working on being better. This is how we reach this next generation. And as we look at the text, he says this, watch, after he had spoken, he said, I am the light of the world. After he had spoken, he spat on the ground, made clay out of the spittle, and anointed the eyes of the blind man with clay. Sometimes God will do what you're not expecting. He may not come when you want him, but he's right on time, and it may not happen how you think it's going to happen. You may have it all figured out, but look at, could you imagine Jesus spitting on the ground and everybody wondering, what is he doing? He down there playing in the mud. He down there, and then he going to take it and then he going to slap it on the man's eyes. You thought one situation was bad. He done put it on his eyes and smeared it all on him. But you know what? Just because you think it ought to work out one way, you have to be willing to yield to what God says. When you're willing to yield to what God says, when he tells you to get up and go to that service and do what I'm telling you to do, you learn to hear the voice of God. Amen. Notice that man didn't argue with what Jesus was doing. But so many people are so quick to argue that they're not even listening. And I can be guilty too, because I talk a lot. And while I'm talking, sometimes my wife accused me of getting ready to say what I'm going to say while she's talking. You know, well, because she's been with me, 31 years in October, so she kind of know me. And so sometimes I might be thinking of what I'm going to say while you're talking, but I have to slow down and learn how to listen. Listen to what she's saying so I can respond appropriately. Watch this. If this man in this blind condition wasn't listening, but notice, God will hinder one thing in order to strengthen something else. Everybody, when my grandfather went blind, all of his senses sharpened up. They just sharpened up. He could get around the house. He could cook. How a blind man cook? He could cook. He could do all kind of stuff because his senses were sharpened when his eyesight left. And so what you may think is a hindrance in your life may be a blessing. Because God will open up a door. He promised that he would make a way. He promised that with the temptation that he would provide a way of escape. And so if he's a keeper and he is able to keep you, just notice that he will sharpen you where you need it. Notice the ladies are going to prepare for after service. God bless you. You're going to get the tape, I know. All right. But what God is doing, when God sharpens something else, he will allow you to function because he said he'll never leave you nor forsake you. But watch this. He did this and he said, go wash in the pool of Siloam. Now, the pool of Siloam, which is interpreted sin, it was a popular place where people washed. They had public places where they could swim and bathe and do all of these things in pools. The pool of Siloam was a common place. So this man not only had to find his way to the pool blind, but he had to find his way to the pool with mud over his eyes. And he sent him to a public place. I said all that to say, don't allow embarrassment to keep you from your blessing. He had to walk through everybody who have seen him and everybody who knew who he was with all of that on his face, but he was being obedient to what God said. Yeah. Some things may be embarrassing, and this is bad for men. Men will let their pride take them all the way down because they're too prideful to ask somebody for help. They're too prideful to tell somebody that something's going on wrong with me. Don't allow your pride or embarrassment or a potential embarrassment keep you from your blessing. You've got to have somebody that you can talk to and say, look, man, something's going on, and I need some help. You've got to be willing to do that. This man was willing to face the embarrassment to obey what the Lord was telling him to do. Even when it seems like everybody's pointing at you and everybody's laughing at you, you better know what God told you. And when you know what God told you, you can stand on what God told you, and it don't take nobody else standing with you. That man had to walk to the pool of Siloam. He had to walk there, he had to get there, he had to get in, and he had to wash because he wanted to be obedient. With spit and clay and mud all dried up on his face, he was willing to walk through. Some people will turn down, and they'll turn their back on their kids if they think it's going to embarrass them. Don't be more concerned about what people say or what people think. You better know what God said. And when you know what God says, regardless of whatever somebody else going to say or whatever somebody else going to think, I'm going to be obedient to God first. We're living in a society where people want to fit in. They want to fit in so much so to where they want you to call what is wrong right and what is right wrong. No, I have to stand for what God says. I'm not calling right wrong or wrong right just to get along with you. But if you get so used to pleasing people rather than pleasing God, you wouldn't have made that walk that that blind man walked. You wouldn't have made that walk at all. You'd have been like, somebody might see me. Anybody got some shades? Like, no, shades or whatever. He's like, I'm going to that pool and wash because Jesus told me to go and wash. And he was obedient. But watch this. If this man would not have been obedient, he wouldn't have got his blessing. So watch this. He went his way, therefore, and washed and came seeing. He got his blessing from being obedient. Took the time to look around. He wasn't talking. We need to take some action. But watch this. Think about the man that was born blind. Here's the last T. Don't be too tough on the blind man. Why? Because that blind man is us. That blind man is us. Look, we were born into a situation that we could not control. We were all born into sin. Yeah. We all had tendencies down on the inside of us, and we all had people that pointed at us and gave up on us. We all had people that said that person ain't going to be up to nothing, they ain't going to make it nowhere. We all had people that were talking about us. We all had people who assumed things about us. We was that blind man. I was blind and I didn't know I was in sin and I didn't know that I needed a Savior. In order for you to get to the point to where you can say, I've been redeemed, you have to be redeemed from something. I've been redeemed from how I used to be. I realized that Bobby had some issues. I had issues that I couldn't fix. I had issues to where we all want to preserve ourselves. And because we want to preserve ourselves, when your mama asks you who ate that cookie, even if you had crumbs around your mouth, you said, I didn't eat it. Mm-hmm. Nobody had to teach you how to lie. You just automatically, because I'm self-preservation, I'm looking out for me first. Even if I got to lie, cheat, steal, or whatever, I'm looking out for me. That's the sin that's down on the inside of you. That's what makes you blind. You are born with that nature. You are born with that sin nature down on the inside of it, and you can't do nothing about it. But I thank God there was one. He saw me blind and in my situation. And instead of talking about me, he turned around to help me. I thank God Jesus took action. He says, look, prepare me a body because I've got to go down there to earth. I've got to fix that situation for my children because we were in a situation that we can't fix. But the problem is you don't change the rules in order to be right. Today, this is where we are. Today, people just want to change the rules and make yourself right. No, that don't fix the situation. You just covering up your situation. You putting makeup on the situation, and this is a scar that you can't cover up. The scar of sin is too deep for you to cover that thing up. You are messed up, and you've got to turn to your Savior. But watch this. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. He took the time out for me. While I was yet in my sin, Christ died for the ungodly. Don't be too hard on other people's situation, because you're going to need somebody else. No man is an island. He made us to be communal because we need one another. And just like you can be a help to someone else, you want to make sure that you're not a hindrance, because what you have to have, this one thing, you have to have empathy for other people. You have to see, by the grace of God, that could be me in that situation. And if that could be me in that situation, I'm not going to jump to conclusions and talk about your mess. I'm going to try to help you out of your mess. And the thing about it, I can't do it, but I know Jesus can. I know somebody that can fix any situation. So you wonder about how we going to stop the gun violence and how we going to do this. And it's going to take a few people standing up for Jesus. And when you stand up for Jesus, you point them boys at Jesus and be like, look, I once was messed up too. But I realized that I didn't have the answer to my situation. But I know someone who has the answer to your situation. And that answer is Jesus, and it's got to come from the household. It's got to start from us standing up, proclaiming that, look, I've got to take the time. I see the situation is getting bad. I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm going to take some action. And I'm not going to be too tough on your situation, because I realized that I was blind myself. I was going through that situation and I didn't know how I was going to get out. But the reason why I have a testimony is because I went through something. I went through something that caused me to see that I couldn't fix things myself. And now that I realize I can't fix things myself, I realize the answer is Jesus. Because watch, he said, work while it is day. Because night is coming where he's going to wrap all of this up. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth coming down from glory. And that's for his people, his kingdom people. You want to be a part of that kingdom. Don't wait until it's too late to sign up. But it's your opportunity right now to realize that, look, God needs to run things in my house, not social media, not the TV, not the news channel, not all these other things. God needs to be first. So I must take the time to hear what God has to say. And when I hear what God has to say, well, I can't be too ready to try to give my own answer. I've got to wait. Even if he uses something unconventional to get me into the church, I thank God it got me in. Amen. That's what you got to do. So regardless, whether it's prison or however, what other people got to go through, say, God, you do what you got to do. Because God has to shut some people down before they come to their senses. And so God, so however you got to shut it down, you shut it down, but I'm going to show them that Jesus is the way. This is the answer for today. This is how we turn people around. It's not about what I can do. I can show you all kind of different things and talk about all of this stuff. There's a lot of solutions that the world is giving, but the world can't give you Jesus. No. There's only two kingdoms, the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. You say, well, Pastor, I don't do what other people, I didn't ask you if you did what other people did. There's only two kingdoms. If you're not following God's agenda, guess what the other agenda is? It's the world's agenda. And the world and the devil, they hand in hand, going on their own way. You've got to decide what agenda you want to follow. There's only two types of people. Either you're for them or against them. There's not a neutral in between the fence which says, I don't want to offend nobody. Well, no, I'm not offending nobody. The truth is just the truth. The truth is the truth. And the thing about the word, watch this. I'm going to tell you something about truth. Watch. Truth don't have to be worried about the lie in the room. No. Truth don't have to worry. But the lie always have to worry about the truth being in the room. That's why people will hate you for speaking the truth. They will hate you and not even know you. Because you're standing for, it's what you represent. See, because the lie has to tear down. You wonder why some people are just so defensive about everything. Because they're offended by the truth. But in order for the lie to operate, the lie has to keep the truth out of the room. But the truth can be the truth wherever you go. So live for the truth so you can be yourself everywhere you go. Because the lie has to change up. The lie has to hush other people up. The lie always has to try to keep the truth quiet. No, I don't have nothing to defend. If I stand for the truth will always, it'll show that lie up and it will shine the light on that lie and that darkness has to flee. Stand for the truth as God has done so much for us. Take the time to look around. Don't talk. Take action. Don't be too tough on people because you were in that situation as well. Amen.